Welcome everybody to episode 2 of This Week in Cannabis Live. We have a 5-person panel this week, including myself. We are joined by Mark Hauser from Cannabis Musings. Welcome, Mark, to your episode 1. Anna Ray and Ben from High Spirits. Welcome, both of you. And Jeremy, my co-founder and our editor-in-chief here at Cultivated. And we're also joined by, I guess, a special guest today, Anna Ray's hat, which is going to play the role of Daniel Boone. Welcome, Anna Ray's hat.
Well, yes. Hello.
It'd be great if it
you
actually
need
had
a funny voice.
Yeah. I really like it. Can I ask why you have a Daniel Boone hat, really, and then why you're wearing it today?
Yeah, so I got the Daniel Boone hat actually on the side of the road in a drive through Humboldt. There's this great, when you're driving down the 1, which is also the 101 when you're driving through Humboldt, there's this really great Bigfoot kind of Humboldt redwood souvenir shop on the side of the road. And that's where I got the Daniel Boone hat. But the reason I decided to wear the Daniel Boone hat and bring it to the party today is 2-part. It's Halloween, so getting spooky out there. But the real reason is that Kentucky is a big part of the news today. And in general, we've got this showdown going on between Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul in DC about hemp. And Daniel Boone is famously a pioneer who really settled Kentucky and I was just thinking, what would Daniel Boone think about this pioneering hemp industry?
So sort of a WWDBD. What would Daniel Boone do?
Mitch McConnell's getting pretty old. I feel like if Daniel Boone came back from the dead, he would probably be pretty comfortable sparring with Mitch McConnell.
He'd probably be younger than Mitch McConnell.
If Daniel Boone came back from the
he's
dead,
dead now. He was born in 1734, so
was Mitch McConnell. That's the thing.
Oh,
sorry, Mitch McConnell. Although
not sorry,
some device he probably doesn't have or even know about. Before we get to that, Anna Ray and Mark and everybody else, this is the most important thing happening today. Aside from Halloween, is also Game 6 of the World Series. The Toronto Blue Jays are playing the LA Dodgers. Of course, the Jays are up 3-2. It is Game 6. It is in the Dome here in Toronto. And this is important. I don't know what to make of this, but of the teams that made it to the Major League Baseball playoffs, okay, Toronto and LA, of course, from legal cannabis jurisdictions. But the other teams that were in the playoffs, Detroit, Cleveland, Boston, New York, Cincinnati, LA, San Diego, Chicago, and Seattle. All of those teams are from legal cannabis jurisdictions. The 2 that were not were Milwaukee and Philadelphia, both long gone from the playoffs. Do we think there's a correlation between legal cannabis jurisdictions and teams being good at baseball? Jeremy, you nodded your head. You think there is?
Well, it's Jay, to your data point there, it's perfectly linear. So if you want your MLB team to have success, legalize cannabis. Phillies. Josh Shapiro, listen.
Yeah. And although the Phillies may be the closest or the next to having a legal cannabis state, and Milwaukee and Wisconsin over the past week, I think we had a story that there is a medical cannabis bill trying to make its way through the legislature there. So maybe those states just want to be better at baseball, and that's why they're pushing cannabis. We'll see.
Maybe that could be the governor race in Florida for whoever replaces Census. That could be their platform.
It's not a bad platform, at all.
Although
Florida also has had the exact inverse in hockey, and they're the reigning World Cup, Stanley Cup champions 2 years running, but hopefully not this year because it's not great when a team where it never snows actually wins.
That's like
the
least
Cup.
hockey state.
They're all Canadian anyways, though, on the team. So.
Right. That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to the...
just quickly. I think legal cannabis has shown to create like higher real estate values, better quality of life in general. So maybe you're able to attract better athletes because the state itself is a better place to live, or maybe the correlation is actually that cannabis leads to physical peak performance.
Any of those things we are taking as answers today.
It's not medical advice.
Especially if the Jays win tonight. If the Jays win tonight, I can guarantee you this afternoon will be a big cannabis sale day in Toronto proper, maybe throughout Canada, just because you got a long game to watch. It's a great time to consume cannabis. So go out to your local dispensary before it gets too busy, right before 8 o'clock. Let's get to the topics of the day. And Daniel Boone, you talked about it first. There is a showdown around hemp in the Senate. We've talked about it on our show and in our newsletter. Is it possible that keeping the hemp loophole in the Farm Bill is what is keeping the government closed? Like, this argument is so serious that Rand Paul wants to keep the government closed rather than ban hemp. Mark, you just gave me this look. What do you think?
Like, come on, I mean, that's the thing. Is that it's not that important to Congress. I mean, there are this is like number 8 million on the list of things that are, that this country worries about. I'm not trying to downplay that there isn't something going on, but this is not what's holding up, the reopening of the government.
I think that's the fallacy that we've all been led to believe, that this is a congressional decision. It isn't. This is between Rand Paul and Mitch McConnell.
Right.
Like, we don't live in a democracy. Like, literally, it could be what is holding it up, because there's one man or two men, depending on what side of the aisle you are, holding up this conversation. And so they're not acting for the benefit of the people. They're acting for the benefit of their special interests.
But that's on this issue. But it has nothing. I don't think it's reasonable to suggest that it's what's keeping Congress from the government from reopening.
I think it could be.
I've
been hearing a lot from the Hill, and it's a pretty big issue.
But you got one dude who's sort of threatening to hold it up to do research. Yeah, come on.
That one dude could also be the crypt keeper. That should have
nonsense. Well, yeah,
should have bowed out when he froze on air.
McConnell doesn't control the Senate anymore. I mean, he has outside influence, but no, it's because of everything else. We can talk about the issue, and I think the issue is more whether, when it comes down to it, will it hold it up? But that's not the issue right now. There's a zillion. It's about the main issues right now. But I think the question is more appropriate. Let's say something happens, a miracle occurs, and the main issues that are out there are cleared up, and everything else is out of the way. And then Rand Paul steps in and says, "Hey, wait a minute, I'm not going to vote for this."
So this doesn't have to be an appropriations bill discussion. So you keep pointing to Rand Paul as being the impediment, but this is Mitch McConnell being the impediment, because it wasn't originally in the appropriations language. That was put in there when the Harris language emerged.
But Rand Paul is the one who's saying it, though. That's why I framed it that way.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people behind Rand Paul. There's the entire alcohol industry that's behind Rand Paul now. The longer this drags on, the more gravity this conversation's going to attract.
But the alcohol industry doesn't vote in Congress. I mean, money votes in Congress, but that's the cynical. But
I don't know if you know how Congress works, Mark.
Well, no, that's why I made that's why I made the cynical point. But no. What I'm trying to do is frame the question. The question and the headlines are that Rand Paul said that he's going to hold up the votes. And so so all I'm doing is trying to do is just frame the question here. I'm not saying, which it seems to be suggested, that there aren't, people who might be into this on one side or the other. The headline is that Rand Paul has come out and said, "I'm going to hold this up if this doesn't get changed." And so he is the one who's saying this. So the question then is, so what is the question then of that? Maybe is it appropriate? Will it work? But he's the only one who's come out and said, "I'm going to hold this up." So that's I think the question.
And then Anna Ray, what would Daniel Boone do?
Oh, Daniel Boone would fight for the people that are trying to keep their businesses open. So he would bring a militia to rally behind Rand Paul, I think.
And he would be leading the charge of "Don't ban can," which was
yes, Daniel Boone would be shouting from the rafters to not ban can, for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
There's a Sora
Yeah.
video in this for something. I'm going to get on that afterwards. We'll build a video of Daniel Boone chanting at Congress.
I mean,
Don't
I guess this is it. Do we think it's appropriate? You know, let's say everything does clear up, and it's down to this, and Rand Paul's vote is actually needed. You know, and because he said in the statements or on this, you know, or in the report, it was reported, he said on this event that he might not be able to actually hold it up. But let's say he does. Is it appropriate? And for him to, or what, do we think that he will eventually bow to pressure, or does he, to hold up the reopening of the government over this one issue? And is it, and do we, if the Democrats are getting lambasted, and putting aside whether that's right or wrong, for holding up over the ACA and rural hospital cuts and all of that, is it appropriate to hold up the government over whether intoxicating hemp, the loophole should be closed or just studied?
If we're trying to bring rationality to what's happening in Congress and DC, I think that's a full errand, my friend.
It sounds like what you're asking is
a very fair point.
Are SNAP benefits more important than legal hemp? And I think it's just not a debate worth having. It's like it seems like really like the problem is that this policy is even in this appropriations bill at all, because it's not the appropriate place to be dealing with it when it's conjoined with all these other really important social programs that are substantively different.
Where is then, though? I mean, the appropriations bills cover all of government. So, I mean, that seems
but it's revisited every year. You don't need legislation like this, argued about every year. Like it was in the Farm Bill. It should be brought back to the Farm Bill discussion. And then there's the proposed Griffith language that is still not officially circulating, but we know it's hanging in the balance just as soon as this argument's over. But the real answer is just a clean continuing resolution like what was proposed. And that would allow the government to stay open and for these conversations to be had in real time, and puts the pressure on Congress to do their job.
So it's far too rational, Ben. I would like to move on to topic number 2. And Ben, I'm actually going to come back to you because last week, I think we talked about oversupply and price compression in a couple of different markets and how it was not surprising. This week, I think there were also 2 stories that are not surprising in the grand cycle of sort of cannabis industry. We had a story out of Massachusetts where I think it was 13 retailers closing up shop, and a really thoughtful piece written in the Outlaw Report about DC's medical market, where many of them are making not enough money to stay open, that a lot of people switched over to be legal medical cannabis retailers or dispensaries in DC. Now there might be too many to serve a population that is actually not growing as fast. Like, is this right size corrections of, in this case, Massachusetts and DC? Is it super predictable like it was last week?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. All right, next topic. No, go ahead.
No, it's like, like living through the California market, like how challenging it has been to create a marketplace in the largest contiguous cannabis market in the world. And if we can't get it done in California, how the hell are you going to get it done in these smaller states? Like the ecosystems are just too small. I've been having this sparring on LinkedIn recently where it's just like, everyone's pointing to the quality of products that are being sold in the hemp space. I get a little sensitive because in the beverage category, we're working really hard and there are very sophisticated operators that have come in. And like you walk through those facilities, it's like you will never see a facility of that quality in the regulated cannabis space because the markets aren't big enough. And it's like, if you really truly want to have quality marketplaces, like you're going to have to open up the markets. You're going to have to stop trying to control it through regulations. Like regulators are not business people and they need to stop pretending like they are.
Yeah. And it becomes especially focused, I would say, in this case, Massachusetts is a big market, but DC is a tiny market and the regulators are not sophisticated, and they happen to be on the doorstep of a pretty booming market in Maryland, literally across the street. That's just eating their lunch with product, with variations, with ease to access. It's a non-medical, it's an adult use market. It's really hard in DC, not to mention the fact that Congress, the aforementioned Congress in the previous part of the conversation, has outsized say of what happens in DC, and it's a shit show there. Excuse my language, and sorry to the folks at the Outlaw Report, but as you pointed out, it is a shit show happening there as well. It just goes to show that every market, it may be compressed in terms of timeline, but goes through a similar cycle of opening up, stores opening up, price compression happens, people closing, right sizing. Eventually, I think, and I was just watching The Big Bang Theory, and they were describing what homeostasis is. But like, hopefully, some of these markets reach some sort of stasis at some point that is right sized, if that's possible, and it hasn't really happened.
Well, Jay, I'm curious from your perspective as someone wearing a Toronto hat, like. There was this wave that happened in Toronto where it was like a lottery process. People were investing it for years. And then all of a sudden they did an open free market. How has that ended up for everyone?
It has right size is probably not the right thing because people are still coming up on 5 years of their first lease. And then a lot of people close. But it has happened, but it's also not static. And this is true. It's going to be true in New York. It's true in California, that it's not as if everything is the same 5 years in. Right now, there's basically no crackdown on illicit sales. There's regular old school dispensaries opened up next to new school dispensaries, the regulated kind. There's a bunch of locations that have gone from the regulated market back to the unregulated market in the same location. Wow. I don't know if it's the same owners or not. So like, it's not the same thing, but like, there's only so much demand for these products, for these stores. When they are in a great location, they do well. When they are within the same block of 4 others, they do less well. So it's still in this process of like up and down, but there are very, very few new dispensaries opening. And if it is, it's sort of the new wave. It's the high tides in particular, sort of Canna Cabana here has a lot of stores because they are great operators. They're big operators. They have great relationships with real estate people, and real estate operators, malls, big sort of REITs, like want them in the shop, want them to be tenants because they know they're going to last 5-10 years and be a really good operator. Whereas the ones that came before were maybe good, maybe shitty, and a lot of them are now out of business. So it takes a very long time. And, same thing with liquor stores. You don't see a lot of liquor stores opening up now, right? Because the market is the market, and there are as many as there are.
Right. Well, there's a natural churn of small businesses. We all know this, and startups. But I think that the real devastation is that it takes so much to join the cannabis market and to open one of these dispensaries, both from like a time horizon, from the time that you get your license to the amount of capital and compliance. Like there's a lot of hoops. And so these folks are really invested. And to get to the point of closing means that there's just pretty likely some serious devastation that's occurring to get to that point. And that speaks to the issues around the barriers to entry. It would not be big news for 13 stores to close in a state that are independent small businesses if there hadn't been so much that went into those stores opening and so much hope put on their success. Yeah.
It actually brings up the next topic, whereas a city in Minnesota is opening up a municipal, like there's in the regulations in Minnesota, you can open up a municipal cannabis shop in your community, and one is doing just that. They were looking to cite the location now. Now this hits home here in Canada because for a long time in Ontario, we were going to have provincially owned cannabis stores. We don't, but there are provinces in Canada that do have provincially owned cannabis stores, and especially in Eastern Canada, in the Maritimes. I don't love this model. I know the industry doesn't love this model, but the city might quite love it in Minnesota, where they could have the only store in town. They could run it as they see fit. They can take the profit. They'll be big buyers of cannabis. Jeremy, you are Canadian by birth, New Yorker by lifestyle. What do you think of something like
this? Eat your heart out, Zoran. That's what I think. I think two things. One, cannabis is a tough business, right? Margins are compressed every single day. It's going to be hard for a municipality to make a lot of money, but I do like the grand idea of it and capturing that tax revenue for the town, etc. extra revenue. But I think it's going to be a hard road for municipality to run a cannabis shop. At the same time, like, I'd be interested to see it. I think, Jay, you and I were having this discussion. The Ontario Cannabis Store initially had this model when Kathleen Wynne was the premier, and it was kind of thrown out the window relatively quickly, and the OCS became a distributor. I think ultimately, if states and municipalities want to get into the business, that's probably a better place for them than to go into retail directly, because retail is very, very challenging.
Yeah. Mark, you're shaking your head.
No. I think it's kind of interesting. I mean, just the irony of government weed. But I guess one of the upsides is, or a potential upside is that, is that a government agency doesn't need to make money. I mean, if you view it as a public good, I mean, this might be a bit of a stretch, but if you view the sale of cannabis as a public good, then there is a value to that even if it runs at a loss, that it can sustain something of a loss that a private owner can't. That may be a little bit of wishful thinking, but there's an argument to be made. And it's and it works for alcohol in Pennsylvania, for example.
Well, this is exactly the point. In Pennsylvania, they're considering it, some version of this, and in New Hampshire, Wisconsin, they're also thinking about it. But in New Hampshire, this was actually a big sticking point. They have a huge state-run alcohol retail model on highways and strip malls everywhere. And when they were considering legalization, even though it's sort of a constant conversation there, the question was, if they ran cannabis stores as well, would they run afoul of the federal government? And what would that do for a state to run afoul of the federal government? Never mind a municipality in Minnesota, but a state running afoul of the federal government, it's a different vibe.
Yeah.
I've probably applied for over 30 dispensary licenses in lots of different cities, like all over the country. And in almost every situation, there's some sort of local tax that goes to that city government if you are a dispensary. And those have ranged from, as low as 1% to as high as 10%. And when you're looking at like a 10% municipal tax as a dispensary to be having to pay the city, it kind of feels like they're your partner anyway. And it's like, what are they getting for that? And so for them to just step in and be like, screw it, instead of taxing the operators, we're going to be the operator. There's a part of that I'm like, that's better than having to just try to create a business that could be profitable in an environment that's basically impossible because the city is trying to tax you so much. They're your partner and they're not having to come to work. Send them to work.
I do, but Minnesota is just a weird place to do it, though. Like if you're Pennsylvania, you're like bringing something new in and you're doing it statewide, sure. But like Minnesota has had a vibrant THC marketplace, right? Like multiple tiers, medical, hemp THC. It's on menus in restaurants. It's at the bars. And now you want to do a municipal store? Like, that sounds lame. That's the wrong direction. Like, we want access. We don't want to feel like we have to go to some brick building like you're getting alcohol in Utah. Like, this is not the model.
I would love if it was actually at City Hall. You could go pull your building permits, buy some weed, go to a city council meeting, visit your mayor, or maybe your mayor
could smoke it while you're sitting in line.
Yeah. maybe the bud tenders is the mayor in the city council. They just take shifts all the time. It's a good way to actually talk to their constituents. I want to move on real quick. An NBA player was pinched. I'll say pinched at Dallas Fort Worth Airport carrying 1.3 ounces and arrested. This is like the opposite of of Major League Baseball conversation at the top. Like, NBA is very, very lenient on cannabis. If they don't test for it, I think it's widely known that it's a league full of stoners. What do we think of this? Like, this is like an overreach by the, Dallas Fort Worth Airport police. Well, people still getting arrested for cannabis. Is it a bad idea to be traveling with cannabis? Nobody here is a lawyer. Well, I'm not a lawyer. Mark, you're a lawyer, I think.
Mark's a lawyer. Yeah.
Yes, Mark, what's your legal advice?
I mean, look, it's federal property. It's governed by federal law, and so it shouldn't be surprising that it's that you can't. I mean, it's unfortunate. It sucks, but it shouldn't be a surprise.
It's amateur. Why was he bringing one?
I mean, it's also Texas.
Well,
It's Texas, it's Texas, and I mean, it breaks federal law. So but I mean, yeah, it sucks. And the policy, it's just another example of why, government, federal and state government cannabis policy is bonkers. But unfortunately, it's the law.
It's not why Luka Doncic left Dallas to go to LA, but I mean, maybe it was
his choice.
Maybe it was. Maybe this is sort of his. It's the hill he wants to die on. I don't know, but it did strike interesting. It seemed like it was a story from like the mid '90s that this happened.
Right. There's a level of hypocrisy in Texas, and especially that they couldn't effectively regulate away hemp-derived THC, which all the Republican lawmakers tried to do. Yet, 1.3 ounces is a lot of weed, right? Don't get me wrong. It's silly to take that through TSA, but there is an element of hypocrisy there where this guy is now getting arrested for something that, people can buy all over the state and will continue to be able to buy all over the state, if the governor now has his way. So
I mean, 1.3 ounces is a lot.
It's a lot, but it's not. Yeah, it's a lot, but like we were all
none of us are over
once.
6 feet.
I probably had more than that in my dorm room at some point. So
I've traveled with weed before, and that's aggressive.
It's aggressive. Don't get me wrong; it's a terrible choice. I agree, Ben. But
I wonder where he was going. Like, are there dispensaries where he was going if he had been able to get on that airplane?
Well,
I just feel like all the players in the NBA need to have a quick huddle because they have multi-million-dollar contracts and they're doing stupid shit to get themselves in trouble.
Well, I always thought this, and anybody who wants to chime in who follows this, I feel like in every city, there's fixers can get you anything you want when you get there, and like it's not necessary to travel with 1.3 ounces when you're flying somewhere, whether you land in New York to play the Knicks or Miami, to play the Heat or Toronto. Like there's people that can get you whatever you want. This is my PSA: don't travel with 1.3 ounces.
Yeah, but this guy, to be fair, this guy was not, Luka Doncic type player. This was a, a two-way. I don't know anything about him, but I don't think he was the guy who had his local contacts wherever he was going.
Sure.
But
well,
maybe if he played well, he would in a couple of years. But
he won't get pinched. All right, I want to wrap it. We had on a recruiter from White Ash Group on a program earlier this week, talking about where he's seeing growth in cannabis hiring. I want to play it for a second, then I want to wrap the show. Hold on one second.
I think 2025 has been an exciting year for Europe in general. Germany still anchors the market. The medical market in the UK is quietly booming. Portugal still remains to be a large export hub. Poland's busy. We've had Switzerland come online. And then you start getting even bigger, like we've seen the medical market grow in Australia, Thailand. I know there's been a few changes in the regulations over time. It's given a bit more of a medical approach there. So it's a big world out there, and the industry's in its infancy, that there's still a lot of room for growth is what we're seeing.
I think it's really good insight, and most of us focus very insular on what is happening in the US, in some small respects in Canada, but that it is a big and growing world out there for cannabis professionals, and there is talent. There's a dearth of talent around the world, but it's going to come from sort of North America out, is my guess. Any thoughts on sort of what you're seeing in your day-to-day lives with what Jerome said?
Well, it reminds me a lot of the conversation we had with Cameron Clark from Kana, and there's just a lot of exciting things happen around the globe, and it's hard to get our minds out of just the chaos that is ensuing here in the US especially.
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
When it comes to talent being exported from the US to other places, one thing that I have realized has really been an inhibiting factor for US talent is the fact that the state legal cannabis industry, because it's not federally legal, has not implemented GMP across the industry, and the rest of the world is. And that means that when someone who might even be like a really high level, very experienced cannabis cultivation VP or director or executive or whatever wants to go and start a cultivation company in Germany or in Portugal or something like that, they actually don't necessarily have the right foundation because of the federal illegal environment here. So it's just one more way that we're less competitive because of the way that we have created this weird patchwork.
Well, in the conversation with Jerome, he also said when you land in Germany and start talking to people about cannabis, it's like you're meeting mostly with Canadians. Mark.
Well, and I would add too is sort of extrapolating from that is that I've always thought that when cannabis is legal in the U.S., you're really going to eventually see cultivation turn into what you see happen with cut flowers, which is all done, except for very high end product. So much of it comes from South America, most of it, and that was a shift throughout the 20th century. And unless the U.S. bans imports, I think you eventually see that shift and of importing, the vast majority of cannabis, for the lower end and mid-level product. And, and so that also requires that sort of talent shift as well. I think it'll be a very sort of similar realigning. It'll take a long time. I'll be well retired before that happens, but it will be a, but I think it will be part of this global realigning once the U.S. Legalizes.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you, Anna Ray, Daniel Boone, Ben, Mark, and Jeremy for joining us here today. There's going to be links to how do you find all of these people and their shows, the High Spirits podcast, Cannabis Musings newsletter, Jeremy and I, how to find our Cultivated newsletter every single day in your inbox. It's usually 8:01 a.m. Eastern time. Sometimes we're somewhere off of that, but I appreciate this is good fun. We'll be back next week with This Week in Cannabis Live. Happy Halloween to everybody. Drive slowly out there. That's my PSA for today. Whether you are in Northern California or Southern California or in Toronto or New York, drive slowly tonight and go Jays.
Go Jays.
Go Jays. Oh,
Go
everybody's
Jays.
a Jays fan right now. It's like it's quasi-political. So
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Right. Except if you're in the LA area, that's it.
Everybody hates the Dodgers. I don't hate the Dodgers, but tonight I do. And I have a very soft spot in my heart for Dave Roberts because he helped win World Series for the Red Sox in 2004. But tonight it's all about the Jays. Go Jays. Happy Halloween, everybody. Thank you, Mark, Anna Ray, Daniel Boone, Ben, and Jeremy. We'll be back next week. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody.